to Brewing Success, where growth is the mission, change is the reward, and progress is the goal. I am your host, Andrea Gebhardt. I'm a former educator turned passionate entrepreneur whose desire to create impact has never wavered. I've spent the last decade teaching, mentoring, and coaching people on how to create success in their lives and businesses with proven strategies and systems that not only bring about change, but big results. When it comes down to it, teaching is my specialty, leadership is my jam, and inspiring you to live a bigger, fuller life is what I'm all about. This podcast will give you the knowledge and tools you need to brew success in almost any area of your life. You're going to walk away each week feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to step outside your comfort zone and into the next level of who you're meant to be. Now let's get into today's episode. Thank you for joining me today here on the show for another value-packed episode. I noticed, by the way, a really cool trend over the past couple of months. I have noticed that when I teach or share a strategy here on the show and then create a tool or a resource for you to use, that you really like it. And I can see these being downloaded. And then, of course, you're sending feedback on how these tools are really helping you. And so one, I just want to say thank you for taking what is taught here and applying it in real life, because that is when the changes happen in the actions you take after listening to the show. So I'm going to make sure that when it makes sense to create more tools and resources for you to download and use. Remember, you can always find those digital resources on the website, brewingsuccess.com or leadlikeandreagebhardt.com. And on that same note, in an effort to deliver more content and value, the Brewing Success Mentoring Community just launched, and you can be a part of it. So I'm excited because I'm going to be offering weekly leadership trainings, workshops, resources, and tools, as well as dynamic coaching and mentoring all year long. So if you're looking for more, if you're looking for a mentor and you want real-time mentorship, accountability, and access to this group, you can also grab information on the Brewing Success Instagram page on the website. So sign up, get started. And if you want to directly, just send me a DM and I'll shoot it right over to you so that you can be a part of this incredible community, which is ultimately going to become a massive movement. Mark my words. So I have a couple of questions for you as we kick off today's episode. Would you consider yourself to be a motivated person? If so, what motivates you? Are you more motivated by external rewards like incentives or internal rewards like joy and accomplishment? I want you to tuck these questions in your back pocket for reflection after today's episode. So we're going to take a dive into motivation, not just today, but over the course of a 4-part series I am calling the Motivation Mastery Series. Motivation is something we need to master if we truly want to be successful. However, we cannot master something without committing to being a lifelong student of it. This is why we're going to unpack this in such an incredible way with the intent to demystify motivation and help you really just develop a better understanding of what it is, how it works, and why it matters. So to start off, I want you to know that motivation is an internal state. It's a feeling that moves you or moves individuals to engage in behavior that aligns with the goal that ultimately leads to progress. I guess you could call motivation the fuel to your goals and dreams. This is why people who are more motivated are more successful than those who are not. If the tank doesn't have enough fuel, the car doesn't go very far. Motivation is what drives human behavior. It sparks change and it triggers transformation. One of the most important aspects of motivation is that it equips us with the ability to overcome, bounce back, problem solve, and approach challenges with a more optimistic outlook. It also gives us the strength and conviction to persist even in the toughest of time. Motivation matters, and that is why we are talking about it today. Now, due to the fact, disclaimer, due to the fact that motivation is a, air quotes, right, feeling, there are a lot of thought leaders out there who say motivation is garbage. That we can allow our feelings to dictate when and how we show up and when and how we decide to put in effort. Because motivation is a feeling, it can waver and be significantly impacted by our moods, our thoughts, and our beliefs. I mean, you've felt it and I felt it. When you're not in a great mood, you're probably not really motivated. And when you're not really motivated, guess what? You're really not in a great mood. I mean, think about it. Those things work together. As a result, discipline is the masked hero that gets all of the attention, because when you are disciplined, you show up and do the things regardless of how you feel. Now, don't get me wrong. Discipline is absolutely required. I believe that you can be successful without being motivated, but you cannot be successful without discipline. Here's what I know. When you are motivated and disciplined, when you have both of those going for you, magical things can happen. When you're motivated, your output is on another level. Why? Because motivation is the energy behind the work. Think about it this way. At night, after dinner, after everybody's eaten, when you tidy up the kitchen, and you do it, right? Simply because you have to, because it's what you do every night. Here's what happens, right? When you do it because you have to, like, oh, have to clean the kitchen. This is just what I do. What happens is you begin to loathe it. You carry disgruntled thoughts and you hold resentment. I think this is especially true for moms, by the way, right? You hold resentment for the fact that you're always the one who has to think up, plan for, purchase groceries for, and actually spend the time making dinner amongst other tasks at the exact same time. And then there you are, to clean it up because the kids ran off to bathe, or, go get their homework done, or your spouse went and after dinner went and sat on the couch or disappeared to the bathroom for whatever they do in there for like 30 minutes, right? So we start to hold resentment. When this happens, your vibration lowers, and you more than likely hold the worst thoughts and energy during this time. You can probably see it in your body language alone. However, if you're motivated to tidy up because you take pride in the spaces, as it's where you nourish your family, because you enjoy waking up to a tidy kitchen, that's me, by the way, because it's a part of how you unwind in the evening, because you enjoy the sense of satisfaction from putting it all back together, then, while you're doing it, instead of being disgruntled, you might be listening to music, kind of dancing around, singing along, feeling light, holding more positive thoughts and energy, generating gratitude for the meal you just shared, even if the kids didn't touch the veggies. When motivation is there, I want you to understand that the output is different. The level of motivation affects how you perform and the results that you get. This is why motivation matters. So let's discuss the two types of motivation. There's intrinsic and extrinsic. And I remember learning about these when I was in college, getting my teaching credential. This was a rather comprehensive topic when it came to teaching, classroom management, student achievement, and success as a teacher. We had to learn how to motivate students to learn and how to take them from chasing extrinsic motivators to intrinsic ones. Does that make me an expert on the topic? No, but it is something, I want you to know, it is something I have spent most of my adult life learning, applying, and teaching. So let's get clear on understanding the two types of motivation, because once we have a better understanding of our motivations, we can improve them. So extrinsic motivation is why most of us do certain things for the external reward or to avoid consequences or punishment, right? We put in the effort for the carrot, for the prize, for the reward. We often use extrinsic motivation, also known as bribery, to motivate others to do things like our kids. If you clean up your room, you'll get ice cream. If you take out the trash for a week, you'll get $10. Extrinsic motivation is when we do something because we want to get something. Sometimes we're motivated to do things for other external rewards like promotion, praise, financial gain, recognition, and approval. We take the action we take the actions that need to be taken, or we complete the task to get something out of it. The challenge, however, with extrinsic motivators is they can actually lessen intrinsic desires. It almost conditions us to only act when and if the reward on the other side is perceived to be worth the effort. This, my friends, especially those of you in business, especially those of you leading teams, especially those of you, leading organizations and running businesses, this can be a slippery slope. What you want is you want yourself and your team to want to do the work because they enjoy it and feel accomplished when they do. You want them to be intrinsically motivated toward the goals and the vision of the team, which leads us to the next type of motivation, intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is inside of all of us, and it is very powerful. It's less about the external rewards and more about the internal satisfaction of completing the task. Like organizing as I sit here in my office, your closet. You do it because you enjoy the process of tidying up and the feeling of getting it done and getting it all organized. When we are intrinsically motivated, the reward is the sheer challenge and enjoyment of doing the task and the sense of satisfaction you gain from seeing it through. For example, our garage can get a little bit chaotic. Half of the garages I've talked about before is like Carter's dirt bike and the weight set and all his tools and tinkery things. He's a, budding, I don't even know, like engineer. He's going to do all the things. The other half of the garage is Paisley's little dance studio. She's got her mirrors and her tumble track and her stretching bands and her, little speaker so she can listen to music. So sometimes between bikes and skateboards and fishing poles and all of those things, it can get a little bit chaotic in there. And so, your garage needs to be done, but sometimes you don't really have the motivation to do it. But when you grab onto that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of getting something big done, of tackling a project and taking care of it, you instantly become motivated. The feeling, the reward is what motivates you to actually get out there and do it. And I probably get out there every couple of, months and really get after it and organize it. And then once in the summer, I take everything out. I'm like that crazy lady who mops her garage floor, even though it's concrete and dusts all the things. It's so weird. I know, but I love the way it looks. I love the way I feel after doing it. It's motivating to me. And when we do things that we're intrinsically motivated by, we're more likely to pay attention to the things that we're intrinsically drawn to complete. And that just kind of stacks and perpetuates, and we suddenly start to increase in our natural levels of motivation. And I'm sure the next question that comes to mind is, okay, Andrea, well, what type of motivation is better? And the truth is, one isn't better than the other. There's a time and a place for each, and developing an awareness and understanding of them only helps us to clearly identify what type of motivation we're experiencing and what type increases or decreases our results, and what type leaves us feeling accomplished and satisfied. This has been studied in depth in psychology, and it's known as the Herzberg theory. And according to Herzberg, intrinsic motivators tend to increase motivation when they are present, while extrinsic motivators tend to reduce motivation when they're absent. This is exactly why I say it's a slippery slope. Because when we overly incentivize or provide extrinsic motivations for basic behaviors that are a part of the job or a part of, the goal, when we overly reward those with extrinsic motivators, then what happens is we run into these little production fallouts where people are no longer engaging in those basic, actions, those basic DMOs, those basic things that they need to do unless there is a reward. And so what we start to generate is inconsistent action, which breeds inconsistent results, which can totally come back and bite you in the back end because it interferes with your level of belief and your confidence because nothing you're achieving is consistent. And so at some point, no reward is going to be enough for the effort for the person to put in. And what you've done is completely annihilated someone's ability to be motivated where they are. Again, this is why it is such a slippery slope. And this is the exact reason why I don't pay the kids for chores. Hey, and listen, if you do, that's you. Go for it. Great. That's your thing. But I don't. Because you're never going to be motivated to take the trash out unless the result of not doing so, right? This is that consequence part, begins to negatively impact your environment, like smelling up the house. That's when you get motivated, right? Money for chores is an extrinsic motivator that sets up false expectation. And I tell this to my kids all the time. No one is going to pay you to take the trash out when you're an adult. No one's going to pay you to take the trash out. No one's going to pay you to do the dishes. No one's going to pay you to pick up your bedroom floor. Nobody's going to pay you to do those things. You should want to do those things as a way to maintain the cleanliness of your home, which you do because you take pride in it and have gratitude for it. If you pay your kids to take out the trash, they're never going to do it unless it's connected to some type of incentive. And parents, we're terrible people with this because we're like, oh, hey, I'll pay $5 if you take out the trash. We're like, nah. Okay, I'll make it 10. How about that? And we're like sitting here negotiating basics, contribution, familial like responsibilities. Those little people have learned how to work us. And I don't know, I don't know where they're being taught. I think we're teaching them actually, but they've figured it out. So we have to get 2 steps ahead and we got to be smarter, right? So instead of paying them for chores, teach them why the task matters and how it contributes to a healthy, maintained home. When it comes to motivation, we must understand what it is and how it affects our mood and productivity. The goal would be to leverage the intrinsic rhythm of the things that you do. Remember that intrinsic motivation arises from within you because it's naturally satisfying. Like think about that for a second. What is naturally satisfying to you? This is not driven by any external rewards, but from personal satisfaction and interest in the task itself. But also at the same time, hold on to an understanding for the value. There is still value and benefit in extrinsic motivators and their place in our journey. Most people, including you, are looking for ways to maintain a constant level of motivation, especially during challenging times or when what was once exciting to do has now become mundane. Why do we do this? Because we like the way motivation feels and we like who we are and what we accomplish when we're motivated. Note, we like the feeling. Motivation is not something that is just going to fall upon you. You're not naturally born more motivated than other people. It's dynamic and something you can cultivate. And I'm going to share with you a few simple ways to generate motivation for yourself. Number 1, check in with your why and the purpose behind the work you are doing. Reconnecting with the reason often sparks the motivation you need by creating a perspective and energy shift. Sometimes, as I pull my bangs to the side of my face and tuck it behind my ear, sometimes, guys, as much as I love this podcast and as much as I love this work and as much as there are some times when I'm just not motivated to create the content. And that doesn't mean that it's not a gifting of mine. It's not a strength of mine that I don't enjoy it. It's just I maybe forgot. And when I start to reconnect with the reason I have this podcast is to impact more people that I'm in direct contact with. The reason I do this is because I really want to help people, grow and change and make progress in their life. Like I want to be that mentor that's right there walking beside you in your journey, somebody you can count on, somebody who's got you when there's other people who don't. Like that's what I want. And when I reconnect with that, I get fired up, so excited. The motivation is there. And I write an episode like this one today. Number 2, define your goal and what it is you're working toward. Goals give us clarity, and clarity cultivates action. Action is the first step in generating motivation. You know how unmotivated you are until you walk in the gym and suddenly you're there? 98% of fear and doubt dissolve the moment you start to move. And if you know where you're going, the first step is easy. Number 3, put a manageable plan together. Put put a manageable plan together, because when you simplify the bigger picture into smaller steps, you feel more inclined to make progress toward the goal. That positive inclination is the beginning of motivation. Number 4, take care of you. Make sure you are getting enough rest, quality nutrition, hydration, and movement. Majority of what we experience as a lack of motivation comes from us being mentally and emotionally overwhelmed, burnt out, exhausted, simply mental and physical fatigue. And so when you make room for taking care of you, you minimize the likelihood of wavering motivation. Number 5, do the things now. Procrastination isn't just the thief of progress. It's also the anti-hero of motivation. Procrastination isn't a superpower. It's your kryptonite. If it can be done now, then do it now. I always say later is a liar. What you put off, you postpone. So when you don't take that step, when you don't do that action, you're postponing your own success. It's called self-sabotage, my friends, and we are not going to get involved in that. All right. Number 6, focus on one task at a time and remove distractions. Multitasking, as we have discussed, interferes with progress, and so do distractions. When we are focused, we are less overwhelmed and more likely to be motivated. Number 7, and this one's really, really important. Tap into the right people, the right environments, and surround yourself with growth-focused activities like reading, learning, listening to podcasts just like this. When you tap into new information, when you tap into inspiring people, when you tap into motivated individuals, you can't help but generate motivation for yourself and simply become more motivated. You need to remember that you are always what you consume, and you become those you spend your time with. Make sure that you are always in circles and never in cages. So there's 7 ways that you can begin to take control of your level of motivation. Now, remember at the beginning, I asked you to reflect on, do you consider yourself a motivated person? What motivates you? What activities that you engage in, you're highly motivated to do? Which ones are you not highly motivated to do? And kind of dissect those and explore those with some of the things that I talked about today to kind of, develop a deeper, richer understanding of your own levels of motivation and why there's times when you're more motivated than not, so that you can start to implement these strategies and these things that we talked about and increase not just your understanding, but your overall levels of motivation. So now that you have a better understanding of it, how it works, and how to generate it, I want you to think about your level of motivation toward the work you are engaged in right now. Is it high or is it low? Start paying closer attention to what you are naturally motivated to do and what requires a ton of motivation to engage in. Put those 7 motivation generators I shared with you into practice and begin to see how they work to help you cultivate motivation even when it's lacking. If we know that motivation is the fuel to our dreams and goals, then we must do our best to master it. You guys, thank you so much for joining me here on today's episode. I can't wait for you to engage in the rest of the Motivation Mastery series and benefit from all that you learn. If you found this episode to be motivating and helpful, be sure to send it along to someone you know or someone you lead. As always, sharing what inspires you is a surefire way to motivate and inspire others. So grab a screenshot of the episode and post it. Send a link to someone. Tag me if you take what you learned and share it in a video this week. My sincere hope is that you take all of this information and put it into action for yourself and those you lead. Be sure to check the show notes for links to resources and tools as part of the Motivation Mastery Toolkit I have created for you. I am so glad to be on this leadership journey with you here on the Brewing Success Podcast, where growth is the mission, change is the reward, and progress is the goal.